That is false. So I want to stop that right now. That is complete and utter false. Hello, Shane Willis, Pensacola real estate expert, bringing you today's episode. Today I want to talk about a couple of myths on buyers. I've had some conversations over the last couple of weeks, especially with people looking at buying right before the end of the year to get the homestead exemption savings. But I always seem to have to overcome these two myths, and that's really what they are. They're myths. And so when I saw some articles saying that I'm not the only one having to deal with this, overcoming these myths, I figured I would just share it on today's show. Myth number one, you don't need 20% down payment. You do not need a 20% down payment. You just don't. Okay? They still think, most Americans still believe that you have to have that 20% down, especially what they call, if you remember last week's episode, I talked about a boomerang buyer, someone who got foreclosed on or a short sale back in the crash. That was me. I had both. I had a foreclosure. My home was foreclosed on, and I had 3 short sales I had to do. Right? So that boomerang buyer, especially those guys, think that you have to have 20% down. You don't. You don't. I actually repurchased about 4 years later using my VA loan, so I put nothing down. Nothing. All right. And even if you're not a veteran, there's 100% financing, and then there's 96.5. So you got to put 3.5% down or 5% down. It's a lot different. But 40% of the people that they surveyed in this article had no idea. 16% thought that you had to put 20, and 40% had no idea what the minimum is. So that was interesting, and actually had a few people this past week going, wait, well, if I don't have to put 20% down, hang on, I might be able to do this. Yep. The other one is, the other myth that I have to overcome is that you need a 780 credit score. I've heard everywhere from 720 to 780 credit scores to get a loan these days because they're not giving subprime loans out anymore. That is false. So I want to stop that right now. That is complete and utter false. You do not need a 780 credit score to get a mortgage. I have seen mortgages this year acquired with a 550 credit score. Now, there's some mitigating factors there. So let's say that normally we like to see at least a 620 or a 640. And if you haven't if you haven't looked in the show notes every week when I put in the show notes, every show note that I have a link to a credit repair course. So if it is something that you're wanting to work on, it's a credit repair course that I practically give it away. I charge a few bucks just to kind of handle the cost of the course. But yeah, it's stuff that I used myself when my score went from 780 down to 460 because of those foreclosures and the short sales that I had. All right. You do not need that. As a matter of fact, between 7 and 749 is 23.5% of the buyers, but between 550 and 700 is like 28% of the buyers out there. Now, if you get a 750, 760, you're going to get a better rate, but it's not going to stop you from being able to get a mortgage. And rates still, even if you have that 620, are ridiculously low when we start looking at historic numbers on rates, which we will do later this week. Okay. So you don't need a 780 credit score, and you don't need 20% down. Let's put that to rest now. I do not, although I know I'm going to have to continue to say that because I know not everybody's going to watch this show, but those of you who are listening to it, you do not need those two things. So those two myths need to be dispelled right now this Thanksgiving week. Maybe there's something you can give thanks for this week. Give thanks that, hey, I don't need a 780 credit score. I don't need 20% down. Maybe I can be a homeowner. Yeah, maybe you can. Give me a call. All right, that's all I got for you today. As always, if you've not subscribed to get the tips, tricks, graphs, infographics, get over to 5minutesinrealestate.com as well. Get over to the Facebook page, facebook.com/Shane Willis, the Realtor. I give away a lot of goodies over there, to include 2 free tickets to opening night of Star Wars right now. Yeah, I said that right. I've got 2 free tickets to the opening night of Star Wars for somebody. Get over to the Facebook page, find out how. Have a great Tuesday.